Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us tonight on Simania Mobile Clinic. We have a very interesting topic of discussion today. We're going to be looking at the economics of health. Is there a role for cryptocurrency in the health ecosystem? So just a few slides to give us some background there too. I think one key question that we need to ask ourselves is, what is blockchain? So blockchain is a technological solution which mainly works on a decentralized manner, and it's an immutable solution that really stores digital data so that generated data or metadata can be securely shared across networks and users. So as a decentralized ledger system, blockchain allows independent agents to collaborate within the ecosystem, ensuring transparency. And there's a timestamp that records the information to bring an improvement in terms of speed when it comes to processing, revenue generation, security, as well as decreasing risk and costs. So what do we mean by decentralized systems? So let me give you an example of a document. So you've got a document and you want to send your document out to person A for adaptation. Once the person A has then adapted the document, person A sends you back the document. Then you send it off to person B, who makes an adaptation and sends you back the document again, back to the central person who's created the document. Central person then sends it out to person C, and person C sends the document back, and so it goes on. So this is a centralized system where there's one single point of failure. However, when we're looking at blockchain, it really utilizes a decentralized system where you have several nodes working at the same time simultaneously. So what that means is that you can record transactions across many different computers at the same time. So there's no single point of exposure or single point of failure in terms of data being stolen, but rather there's various nodes of use. So in terms of blockchain security, we know that we utilize cryptographic keys, and there is a distributed network, and a network that's servicing a protocol by recording information in a block. So once this information, or let's call it a transaction request, is validated, the metadata is recorded in a block and cannot be disputed, it cannot be removed, and it cannot be altered without the knowledge and permission of those who have created the record, as well as the network. So when a block has been added, other blocks remain unchanged. So is there a role for blockchain in healthcare? So let's look at cryptocurrency. We know that cryptocurrency is based on the blockchain technology, and the databases that manage transactions without spoiling the code. So what this means really in terms of cryptocurrency is that there's no real need for a bank. So the purpose of today's discussion then will look at the wider applicability of technology and how it paves the way into aspects of healthcare, including wearable devices and progress in terms of medical research. The healthcare sector has a growing demand, and this growing demand can definitely utilize blockchain and the development of blockchain. And this has been demonstrated in one of the studies that were done in 2018 by Deloitte. So if we look again at blockchain in healthcare, we know the immutability, the fact that the chain cannot be changed, is a vital option in terms of storing healthcare data. It can secure health records, the results of clinical trials, and it can also ensure regulatory compliance. The employment of smart contracts support real-time patient monitoring, as well as a variety of different medical interventions. Such systems ensure security of records in a compliant manner. And one other option or one other use for blockchain could definitely look at the measures or protection against counterfeit drugs. So let's look at a few case studies in terms of our use of blockchain technology. So in terms of the case studies with regards to healthcare, blockchain can really be used in 4 different areas of the healthcare system. The first one, if you look at smart contracts. So if you look at the left side of the table, you'll see the use of smart contracts. And on the right side of the table, I've actually highlighted the various mediums in which smart contracts have been used. So the first one is you're really looking at the use of blockchain in your insurance claims. Second to this, you can also link it up to patients as well as hospitals and link that up to the specific doctors or specialists that are required. So the system can really integrate things like video chat, allow communication with patients as well as doctors. The second arm in terms of use of this technology is healthcare and the supply chain. So with regards to that, it's been used in 2 areas, particularly in pharma trust as well as Bakelika. Right, I'm not sure about the pronunciation of that name, so please forgive me. But with pharma trust, they really look at eliminating the counterfeit drugs. So they've utilized blockchain technology. And then second to this, we've looked at the use of blockchain in water safety and quality control. Thirdly, the use of blockchain in data storage and exchange. So this has been utilized in 4 different companies in 4 different areas. So NWP Solutions has actually used the platform to integrate smart devices and provide databases as well as access to healthcare. In medical health, they've looked at accessing physicians or specialists and linking them up. And then AlphaCon, you're looking at your personalized healthcare solutions based on the big data sets and analytics that have been used from the blockchain technology. And then lastly, the Cura network, where there's really sharing of healthcare data and providing secure as well as instant access to records. Lastly, I'm just going to look at the facilitation and promotion of medical research. So a network that can connect patients directly with medical providers and allows patients to manage their data and provide incentives to share their data through a variety of different tokens. So basically giving the patient the power to actually utilize their data or to share their data, but to be incentivized for it. So to assist us facilitate this conversation today, we've got Dr. Maribanyana Lebeko. And our speaker for tonight is Yaliwe Zoko. She is the ecosystem lead at C Labs. She's the chairwoman of United Africa Blockchain Association. She is the founder of Essence Crypto Consultants, as well as United Africa Women in Blockchain and Ethereum Foundation DevCon alumni. Ms. Zoko is one of the very few African women to be fully involved in the blockchain and cryptocurrency. She received an award in 2019 from DevCon, where she attained the top learner status through the Ethereum DevCon Scholarship Program. She took up an interest in blockchain technology since 2016 and has worked as a freelance Bitcoin and cryptocurrency consultant for an online investment firm. With the help of her qualification as a training facilitator and assessor, she has been able to create a number of YouTube tutorials and has currently completed a blockchain and cryptocurrency learner guide for beginners. She is currently an ICO advisor for a number of projects with a background in finance, administration. Ms. Yaliwe Zoko has served as a financial administrator and an operations manager for reputable companies. She has a sound knowledge in the oil and gas industry, as well as corporate governance and corporate policies. Thank you so much, Yaliwe, for being here tonight. You're such an esteemed speaker we look forward to the rest of the conversation. Over to you, Yaliwe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kim. I'm just like, okay, wow. But thank you so much for having me. And I think you've actually made the whole conversation very, very easy for me. It's kind of like I was in a space where I was learning from some of the stuff that you were presenting. So I'm actually happy to be here, and you've really broken it down. If it was up to me, I would have said, hey, we're done, let's go home. So just to go back, maybe I'll try and simplify what we've heard today in terms of what blockchain is and cryptocurrencies are. So for people who might not really understand the technical terms, a blockchain is just, it's a ledger, right? It's a digital ledger of transactions. So I know most of us are familiar with, let me not even say ledger, let me say database. So a blockchain is simply a database, and on a regular basis, a lot of us enter data, whether we're going to be entering data on our phone or on a computer, somewhere there's data that's being stored on a platform. So I normally say the blockchain is a database with integrity. And why I say it's a database with integrity is because most blockchains are open source. And open source, which means the data that is entered is available to people that are part of that network, right? And the validation of the data, and what I mean by the validation is that for the authenticity of the data actually depends on the people in the network that say, actually, this is correct, we agree this is the right information that has been entered, and we put a stamp to it. It can be added to this existing database, unlike what we have in the present time and actually in previous times, whereby I am in control. So if I'm a clerk at an organization, I'm in control of the company database. I'm in control of all the entries. If anything, if there's any form of corruption, somebody can just come give me a small fee. I can easily change the information of the computer and nobody can say anything about it. The information is just not there. Right? So I'll normally say a blockchain is a database with integrity, and just because the people that are part of that network are actually involved in the decision making of what information is actually true and what information is authentic. So that's just a little breakdown of what the blockchain technology is. And cryptocurrency, I would say, is the first use case of the blockchain technology. So another thing that this database does is that it allows you to create value on top of it, right? An ordinary database is just you entering information, entering whatever data that you have to enter, and it ends there. But this actual database actually allows you to create value on top of it and actually to transact, right? And also to cut out intermediaries. So it's a database that has integrity, but also allows you to create a form of value on top of it. In some cases, a value that has been taken advantage of. So that's in simple word what a blockchain is. And a cryptocurrency is actually one of, for example, Bitcoin was one of the first use cases of this technology or this database, I would rather say in simpler terms. So just simply going back to the healthcare industry, it's quite interesting because this technology cuts across various industries. I mean, you can name it: land registrations, voting systems, just a lot of anywhere that data needs to be entered, it's easy to adapt this technology. But in the healthcare industry, it's actually quite liberating in some ways. So I know during your presentation, you mentioned something about counterfeit medication or vaccines or anything that has been counterfeited in the medical industry. I wrote a little article a while back, and this was a result of my advisory role for an organization that was in the pharmaceutical space, but also in the blockchain space. And they're still there, they're creating a token around this ecosystem that they were building. And the main reason I got involved was, one time I was in Zambia and I was supposed to travel to Moscow. So I was heading to the airport. No, I was coming back to South Africa. Yeah, so I was heading to the airport and there was something in the news. And what was in the news is that there were counterfeit medicines that had come into the country and they were administered to patients. And this got me thinking. I had two thoughts, right? I was like, okay, let me not play the blame card. So maybe in my thinking was that there could be two reasons here. One could be purely out of ignorance. The other one could be as a result of corruption, right? So it could have been any of those reasons, but then it got me thinking and said, look, if we had blockchain in place at this particular time, there could have been a record of where the drugs were coming from, the passage that they took, how they got to where they were going. There could have been a timestamp to all those transactions, right? Like supply chain management, even the time they were going to be administered, there could have been some kind of accountability because this technology was in place. So it actually inspired me to be part of this organization because they were trying to do something right. That was creating an ecosystem that could connect all the supply chain as well as combat counterfeit medicines, because there could be accountability when it comes to medication. So I'm happy that you actually mentioned that in your presentation. That's why I said you made my life so much easier, that if it was up to me, I think we're done here. Let's go home. And another thing that the blockchain can actually help us with is to incentivize, right, quality service. Like I said, it's a database, but it's also a database that allows us to create value, right? You can create tokens in form of, you can incentivize. I give an example of incentivizing is not a new thing to us. I mean, there's all sorts of points that people earn for using certain services, right? You can use, there's e-bags, there's pick and pay, you get all those points, right? But this, when you look at it, it's just a matter of saying, hey, we're giving you some points for spending this amount of money using our platform. But with the blockchain, you can actually create that value. And it's a value that actually can mean something without you having to attach a lot of bureaucratic organizations to it. That is why at some point there was a boom in people creating all sorts of projects and coming up with a token that people bought into. Right now, there are over 6,500. I think even over 6,000, I would say, cryptocurrencies that are existing. And people, some of them are utility tokens, people using them, and sometimes people just use them for speculative purposes, and some people are just making money out of them. So I think that could be also a system that can be used to incentivize healthcare workers for quality service, right? It can also be used to incentivize patients for really taking care of their health and adhering to whatever has been set before them, and doing right by the healthcare professionals instead of making their lives easier, right? Like I know right now we had an issue whereby we've been going back and forth in terms of COVID-19 and level restrictions, just because sometimes people do not act right. So that could also be a system that can be used to incentivize people for good behavior, patients for good behavior as well. Another use case that I would like to talk about is maybe a reduction in cost and speed of service delivery, right? So what the blockchain also does, like that's why I added the supply chain in the beginning, is that you're able to cut off all the middlemen. I would say all, but yeah, maybe most, but mostly you're able to cut off the middleman, and the healthcare workers can interact directly with the healthcare professionals or with the institution that they're supposed to interact with. So there's a reduction of cost there. There's also a speed in the delivery of services, also, like I said, through smart contracts, right? So you mentioned that earlier on in your presentation, which also plays a vital role in the deployment of healthcare services. And also it can be, you're able to, for example, in the case of, I'm just going to use COVID as a use case, right? We're expecting vaccines from outside the country. We don't know the state of the vaccines that are coming into the country because there's no accountability. So there's all these parties in between. There is the production company or the manufacturers of the vaccine. There's all these other people in between. And when you receive the vaccine, it's not what you expect. Why? Transparency layer has been cut out. And that is also that's gonna, so to make that right, you're actually incurring more costs to fix that. So the blockchain can enable you to have that transparency, encourage accountability in the and then that's resulting in in a way that you don't have to keep going back because there's something wrong that happened. You know it even before you receive what you are supposed to receive. So there's a cost reduction that is also attached to it because you cut out a lot of things. All right. And then also secure digital transactions and also protection of patient health records. You know, sometimes maybe just me. So I've worked in a clinic before. Though I might have to say, look, I'm not allowed to disclose any patient records, even if I'm working there, right? But being part of a system, sometimes I'm able to access patients' records just because I'm the one that's handling those files. Right? So there's that kind of, there could be kind of a peer-to-peer between healthcare provider and the patient, that there's no person that's in the middle, and that way the records of the patients are really kept in a secure manner, and there's that kind of protection that there could be no leakages of healthcare records, because blockchain also has a focus on peer-to-peer transactions of some sort. So I just had like a few pointers to put out and trying to simplify it in some way. And for now, I'm going to pause just to see if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Yaliwe. Dr. Libeko, is there anything from yourself?
Oh, you're muted, Doc.
Oh, let me.
Oh, yes. I was saying nothing from my side at the moment. Thank you very much. Sorry about that.
Not a problem. I think for me, the burning question, Yaliwe, is how could we potentially use blockchain in terms of the vaccine rollout? So in terms of knowing which patient is supposed to get a second dose, in terms of knowing which patients have actually received their doses, yeah, how can it actually be used with regards to the logistics of the vaccine rollout? How can it make life a bit smoother, and how would that potentially work?
Okay, so like I first said, blockchain is time-stamped, right? And once information has been entered, it cannot be altered. So let's say, for example, we have registered 3,000 people to take that vaccine, and their credentials are actually registered on the blockchain. So let's say Yaliwe Soko comes through, ID number, blah, 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 and I take that, I come through, everything is recorded that I've taken the vaccine. Nothing else, as long as I was not recorded on the system, nobody else can come in my place, right? Because if another person comes in my place, the transactions are going to be invalid. So for accountability purposes, we can use that, making sure that the people that the vaccine is intended for are the people that receive it, the people that have been recorded on the system, because you cannot enter a transaction twice, or you cannot enter a transaction that was not set on the blockchain, or you cannot rig the system. Because if you're gonna rig the system, you have to start, remember, so what a blockchain is also is that it's a record in that database, right? An ordinary database, you can play around with the data. You can say, oh, you can even place number one or whatever. You can play around with the data, even on Excel or whatever. But with the blockchain, let's say Yaliwe came in at 11 o'clock and we took her name, and on this day she's coming for the vaccine at maybe 2 p.m., right? This is what we've set up. That has been set up, and there's a timestamp that is attached to that. And also, let's say Dr. Mariba comes just immediately after Yaliwe, right? And everyone on that network says, okay, he came after Yaliwe. And at this particular time, we have these details and we've set up this appointment for this and this time, right? That is also recorded and it's attached to my appointment. But also what makes it special is that my appointment has a certain component that Dr. Mariba's appointment inherits. So there is that connection. I normally say you with the blockchain, you kind of inherit the DNA of another transaction. There's a part of a DNA that is inherited from another transaction. So nobody can just come and say, I was here. No, where is that DNA component that you inherited from the previous person that was here? You know, sometimes I give this example of kind of a family, right? You know, people would say, I would say, these are my kids. For them to be my kids, there's a certain DNA component that is attached to them. So if anybody else comes and claims these are my kids, we can do a DNA test and say, hell, the DNA test says these are my kids. So it's that component that you inherit from the previous transaction that actually validates a lot of things on the blockchain.
And then my second question would be, the use of blockchain in something like a health e-wallet, is that something that could potentially work? I know, for example, at Clicks, they've now got consultations that you can do with your doctor online. I think they call it e-dokotela or something to that effect. So could blockchain be a method or a mechanism that we utilize for, e-consultations? And then with that said, is there a way to create an e-wallet so that someone could pay at a specific store with their cryptocurrency?
Exactly. That's why, like I said before, there are a lot of cryptocurrencies out there, and each of them has a certain use case to it. And to be able to transact, each of those projects has a wallet address. So you can have your wallet, have a wallet address that is attached to your clinic, and say, hey, once you come and consult, you can pay using this wallet into our personal wallet, and that way, so you can either do two things. It can be used to incentivize token holders, and also remember, there's a lot of possibilities out there. So once you get your token listed on an exchange, the token holders can be able to exchange it for some kind of real value and for using your service. So what can be determined is what is the underlying asset that's adding value. So could it be something you're looking into patient records? What are you looking at that's going to hold the value of that token that you're incentivizing the patients? But it's something that's very doable. I've seen there's quite a number of organizations that are doing something in the blockchain space in the health sector, and they've got tokens, and these tokens can be found on CoinMarketCap. I'll try and check for some, and maybe possibly another time I can just send them to you to just have a look into what they're doing and see if it makes some kind of sense. Yeah.
Dr. Libeko, if I can bring you in here, any pertinent questions with regards to what we've discussed so far?
Yes, so it's just a follow-up question from your question, Dr. Lamont, where, my follow-up question would be, how accessible is this technology to the lower income communities? And, looking at the fact that, there's no middleman or administration, in this platform, and it's only like maybe doctor-patient type of relationship. So for someone who comes from, a less educated background and all that, how easily accessible is this platform, and how can they, access that without any hassles?
Okay. So secondly, the beauty of this platform is that anybody can build on top of it, especially if it's open source, right? So if I believe I can build a wallet that anyone maybe in the local community can download, right? I can build that and give my local community access to that, because that mostly it's open source. Anybody has the ability to build. I'll give you, for example, the Celo blockchain. So I know Dr. Kim is part of the Celo ambassador community, and the mission is to create, to build tools that create the conditions of prosperity for everyone, right? So those tools are now up to you and I to think about something, right? What tool can I build using this technology that has been made available to me? I'm not paying for it. Somebody has set up this technology. It's open source. What tools am I going to build to empower my local community, right? And then there is support also out there within the blockchain space. So it's also, as long as you've got a project that is within the mission of maybe the founders of that particular platform or the foundation behind the platform, because most of these blockchain platforms are run by foundations and they're non-profit organizations. So they just run it to help people out there so that there's a point of reference. Like, okay, we can't just build this. Let's build it, but let's be there to support in case somebody wants to do something. So you can come up with the tools that you feel would actually be beneficial to the local community. And a long time, it was a little bit difficult because most of the tools that were being built could not accommodate people with, because maybe certain phones, or they needed to have a certain type of device in order to participate. But now there's platforms, for example, Celo, that came up and said, hey, let's make this platform mobile first, right? Let's make this platform accessible even to somebody with a budget smartphone, which is maybe $30. And they came up with that idea. But you know the best thing that happened? Other people came up with even better ideas and said, hey, I have a tool that somebody that's just using a feature phone and they're able to just press like USSD, the way we buy airtime, can be able to participate in this platform. So the users don't necessarily need to understand the back end. They just need to understand the value addition to the communities, whether it's a USSD number that connects them to the doctor, or their smartphone is able to accommodate that application that has been built.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Libeko. Thank you for that. I think my next question is going to be in terms of, smart devices. There's lots of health challenges that are out there. So, or fitness challenges around, mental health, a variety of different nutrition as well. And particularly with the beginning of the year, you find lots of people entering into these challenges. So how could you actually use blockchain to monitor somebody's movement, the level of their movement, to a certain extent really monitor their nutrition? And the second question would be, can blockchain or cryptocurrency be used in any way with regards to alleviating some of the burdens that we have at the moment with mental health?
Okay, so I think I mentioned just before, so a blockchain is only as successful as as the applications that are built on top of it, right? So normally in the blockchain space, they call them decentralized application. So anyone is at liberty to, anything is possible, I say, when it comes to this technology. So anybody is at liberty to think around something that they can build on top of the blockchain. So if you believe that you want to build something that can monitor maybe a certain aspect of somebody's life, whether it's health related or it's savings or just something, you can come up with that idea and build an application on top of a blockchain that supports that, right? And when it comes to the technical aspects, like I said, most of the blockchains have a foundation that actually has people that are able to support you in actually actualizing the technical aspects of this application that you want to build. So the question will be, for example, Celo has a certain number of use cases. Some of them are save use case, earn use case. People can earn in crypto, people can send, people can, accept. So there's just a lot of use cases around that you can play with. So it's possible as long as you have the idea and there is support out there to actually actualize it.
That would be fantastic to actually be able to track someone's steps and their movement and then kind of link that data up to how they're feeling on that specific day. So then you're linking up two aspects, movement plus mental health, and then looking at the sustainability aspect of it for companies. So if someone is moving and eating well, their mental health's improved, which means at work they're performing better. So if one could draw these correlations through the use of blockchain technology, I mean, that would be phenomenal while it's being stored in a database. And then you'd also be able to access your real-time data. So that's
Exactly.
fantastic.
And also, the beauty of it is that these people can actually own their data, right? It's not like the data is being used for marketing purposes or just for, they can own it. You know, it's data that even if it's entered on the blockchain, it doesn't necessarily have to tie to somebody's name, right? It doesn't have to say, oh, Yaliwa's heart rate is what, this is Yaliwa's this. There's actually a certain, I'll say, the hexadecimal code that is attached to that. So I'm identified by a code that says, hey, this code, this is the heart rate, this is this. So at least it keeps the records kind of anonymous if it's something that can just be used to monitor, right? And maybe that kind of exchange can just be between the healthcare workers and the person, right? So only you know my code. Say, okay, this kind of thing is coming from this patient. Nobody else that gets to see that code really knows where it's coming from or who it is, you know? So I think that aspect is really amazing.
Dr. Libeko, anything from you?
Okay. Just checking with regards to the audience on the platform. No questions from the audience?
No questions as yet. I think the topic of discussion is quite new to them, particularly blockchain in the health ecosystem.
Yeah. So just a question for you, Yaliwe. With regards to this platform, how feasible is this in the academic space? Say, for instance, in learning institutions where we're moving on to online platforms with regards to learning and submission of assignments and things like that. And then taking it a notch further, how would this be useful in the research space where people have got this data that needs to be protected? We write data in the lab books and all that. So how would that be feasible with regards to maybe storing data digitally and being able to access this data within that community that uses that blockchain? So I think those are my two questions in the academic space.
Okay, so I once was part of a hackathon. I was one of the judges of a hackathon, and I was given a certificate. So this certificate was actually embedded on the blockchain, right? That showed the validity of the certificate, that it actually came from that institution. So anybody that had that, I would say, that code that I had and send it to them, they can go to that blockchain and they can actually validate that Yalio was really part of this. This certificate belongs to her, right? So going back to your question, in institutions, it's mainly verification of qualifications is a big thing. And also validation of research, who does it belong to, right? So if, I would normally say this, I said sometimes when it comes to our world, a lot of people sometimes are sitting in positions they don't qualify for, just because somebody somewhere cooked up a certificate and nobody can actually really validate that certificate, right? So when it is on the blockchain, you can always go back and say, truly this person was part of this institution because this has been verified on the blockchain, and the participants of that blockchain were saying, yes, this is correct, this person was part of us. So you can protect the research in that way. I came up with my research, this is my thesis, and I'm protecting it, I'm putting it on the blockchain, and everybody can always go back and use that as a point of reference. As long as I share it with them.
Absolutely. Sure. No, it's so interesting. Wow. Yeah, no, wonderful. I think also another question for me is this idea of not having, a bank where you're actually going to go and do queries or access your money from. What are your comments for the general public in terms of that? There's no bank, you can't see your money. How is it working? Do you use an app to access your account? Or just a few more details for the public, and anything with regards to educational material that they could use. If you could refer them to a specific, spot or website or anything around that.
Okay, so when it comes to that, right? Banks, I believe banks are trust entities just because they have infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
right? You go to sleep at night leaving your money in the bank just because you're going to wake up tomorrow and you still see the F&B building.
Yeah.
That's just the reality. So when it comes
Yeah.
to, but if you really, right now, people don't even need to use cash. Well, in South Africa, cash is still king, but people don't even need to use cash because we've got e-wallets, there's cell phone banking, there's internet banking, there's apps. But what makes you sure that that money that is there is actually real money, because it's just zeros and ones? Should FNB decide, or Nedbank, or whichever bank decide to just shut down today, shut down the internet, vacate the buildings, where are you going to get your money from? So it's the trust entity when it comes to banks mainly is because there's an infrastructure, there's an office you can walk into, right? But let's say midnight, it's 3 a.m., everybody's sleeping. They just say, hey, the building is burnt down. You can't access the ATM and the servers are shut down. You can't access your money. And that's a single point of failure, right? When it comes to cryptocurrencies, you mentioned it before, there is no point of failure. Just because Yalewe has a node in the blockchain and she's validating transactions, all of us will validating these transactions simultaneously. If my computer, my server decides to shut down, there's 1,000 other computers around the world that validated the same transaction, it's still standing. So there is that kind of protection. And when it comes to cash out, so right now, when the internet started, it was mainly something that was used for, let's say, sending emails, or then, there's Explorer coming in where people can browse the web. Then we had a lot of additions coming on top. Right now, we can converse over the internet. So there had to be an improvement. It's the same thing that came up when the blockchain started. The first use case was Bitcoin. It went through its phases that some people believed in it. They got some coins. Somebody even bought pizza with it and bought pizza right now. The pizza story with Bitcoin. I think Papa John's is now a very rich man because he accepted Bitcoin at a certain time when nobody believed in it. And when people now started trying to say, how do we improve on this? And if you understand the value is that anything can be money as long as somebody, or anything can have value as long as somebody endorses it. And when the person endorses it and other people believe in that endorsement, it becomes something of value. Because like the money gold was once valuable. It was a medium of exchange, which now became a store of value. Then it was like, okay, let's print paper. Which paper, when I see a 200 rands, I'm getting excited, but it's just a piece of paper. When I see my bank balance, for example, it's 100,000 rands, I'll be like, oh, I've got 100,000. If my computer had to shut down, I won't be able to access that money. It's just zeros and ones. So just the same way, people started now trying to add value to this ecosystem. That's why we had people coming in as exchanges, right? And said, hey, I'm going to offer you an exchange where you can give me your crypto, I can give you cash, because you want to use cash and it's still usable. That's why we have a whole lot of exchanges right now. And these exchanges now got into a space whereby you could attach your bank account. I can actually go to an exchange, sell my crypto for fiat or for South African rands. I sell it for ZAR. The ZAR is transferred into my bank account to go and use it. Some people even started coming up with crypto cards. I once had a crypto card whereby I could use it at the ATM. I just go on my platform, convert that Bitcoin to US dollars, go on an ATM, use the Visa card or MasterCard, withdraw cash. I might not get a transaction history, but I still got my cash. Go to a restaurant, sit down and pay with it. So people now starting to innovate on top of that. and trying to make it better. So you're going to see a lot of innovation coming around in making this whole usability of cryptocurrencies better.
Sure. Dr. Libeko, I think that would be so useful for you because, I mean, you stay in Lesotho, but you're traveling to Cape Town. So, I mean, if you had a crypto card, you wouldn't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Exactly. Exactly. They are there actually. I might share one with you so that you can just look it up and see how do I use this.
Yeah.
And it supports a number of cryptocurrencies, so I can share that.
Fantastic. No, thank you. Thank you, Yaliwe. And then in terms of tax, how would it work in terms of tax? What are the tax implications of using cryptocurrency? Let's say you're incentivizing your employee with cryptocurrency. What are the tax implications?
Okay, for now, to be honest, there's no regulation around cryptocurrencies. There's still a play around regulation because how do you regulate something that is not centralized? That's the first thing, right? And as long as there is no, let's say you're incentivizing, but you're not putting in cash. So that way it's easy to work around, right? As long as there's no influx of fiat currency going in. So what the regulators have tried to play with at this point in time is to regulate service providers. So exchanges, there's a regulation, there's KYC at the moment, right? If I want to sign up on an exchange, they'll ask for my ID, they'll ask for my proof of residence, and my contact details, my email address. So there's KYC that's taking place. So that way you get to know who is transacting. The service providers get to know who is transacting what. And if there are any red flags, the service providers are able to point them out. So there's regulation for service providers, but not individuals. Right now, for example, there's a scenario in Nigeria. The Central Bank of Nigeria decided to close all bank accounts that are associated with cryptocurrency or cryptocurrency trading, right? So most of the exchanges that were able to provide cash in and cash out through bank accounts are not able to. Do you know what happens? They promote peer-to-peer trading. So fine, the bank say, the central bank said we can't use their system, fine. It's just gonna be me and Dr. Kim or me and Dr. Libeko transacting. You say you want 2 Bitcoin. Okay, you want 2 Bitcoin? I have 2 Bitcoin. Pay the money into my bank account. It's a transaction between you and me. So you can't really regulate something that is decentralized. So you have to find a way of saying, how do we accommodate this technology so that, and how do we make it safer for the people that are using it?
So if I wanted to purchase, let's say, I don't know, clothing or a house or a vehicle with my cryptocurrency, how would I do that?
There are actually companies, real estate companies that have come up, right? They've come up with cryptocurrencies and cryptocurrency platforms to invest in real estate. There are a lot of stores that accept, if you go, even I think PayFast as well, if I'm not mistaken, accommodates Bitcoin transactions. There are payment processors that are accommodating cryptocurrency transactions. So if you just do a search, you will see the stores actually that accommodate cryptocurrency payments. So there are quite a number of them. Some restaurants too. I know I reached out to one restaurant somewhere in Cape Town. They had added cryptocurrency as a payments method. Bitcoin actively. Yeah.
Sure. No, fantastic, fantastic. Sure. I'm sure the public are just so taken aback as to what you can actually do with cryptocurrency. So is there an app that you could use? How do you actually get into, accessing cryptocurrency, starting to save your money in terms of crypto and using cryptocurrency? What are the basic steps that someone could take from this discussion today if they wanted to start using cryptocurrency? Where can they go?
So firstly, you can look at your local exchange. right? Most exchanges do provide wallets where you can store your cryptocurrency, and you can actually exchange it for fiat using the exchange. That could be one. Another, you can use wallets that are that have some kind of partnership with exchanges. For example, at Cello, there is of the Valora wallet, for example, right? Somebody can download that wallet and they're able to purchase Cello or CUSD from the partners on the platform, and they can save their cryptocurrency and earn maybe some kind of reward for saving. So there are a number. You can look at local exchanges. I don't want to mention a lot of names. I'm not doing endorsements, so you can just look at local cryptocurrency exchanges, and you can look them up. How to create a wallet is very simple. It's as simple as signing up to an online banking platform. Your contact number, they will ask for your ID and everything else. You do your KYC, they approve you, there you go. So you can also, there's some platforms allow you to add your bank details so that you're able to cash out straight to your bank account, and you're able to purchase straight send cash to the platform from your bank account. So there's a lot of platforms available right now. I mean, in South Africa alone, there are quite a number of local cryptocurrency exchanges, and a lot of information is available and tutorials as well. Another thing, just make YouTube your friend, right? Check out YouTube tutorials, check out kind of maybe cryptocurrency for dummies, not to make you sound dumb, but just go out there and say, hey, let me check out cryptocurrency for dummies. Let me check out what is blockchain in simple terms, right?
Yeah.
So that it doesn't have to be really technical, but it's you just understanding it even before you really understand the technical aspect of it.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Yaliwa. I've learned a lot today. I hope the audience has as well. I see Dr. Libeko is back. His network is giving him a problem this evening. Dr. Libeko, are there any other questions from you, or would you like to summarize at this point?
Okay. Thank you very much, Yaliwe. I don't have any questions at the moment, so I've just gotten a very brief summary, and I think it's quite important. And as Dr. Lamont has mentioned, it was quite a learning session for us, quite over my head. So yeah, basically, just to put it in English for everyone else. So you explained what blockchain is. So simply put, I think it's a decentralized open source database that really, can have the capacity of generating or creating value, which I think is quite important for people to pick up. And then you mentioned that things like cryptocurrency uses such platforms, and Bitcoin and many other platforms actually the cryptocurrencies that use that blockchain, whatever it is. So I think that was important for the audience to know that. I think I would like to focus mostly on the advantages of using blockchain on the healthcare system, and some of the examples that you made. So you mentioned that this can be used in the healthcare system to avoid dissemination or dispensation of counterfeit medications, which would be beneficial in many aspects. And also, it would be a useful tool to incentivize, healthcare workers for a good service, and concurrently as a form of incentive for patients with regards to adhering to medication and so on. So I think that two-legged would be, two-legged part would be quite important in the in bringing about the whole idea of blockchain in the healthcare system. And then you spoke about the possible reduction in terms of cost, where there is unnecessary logistics within a certain entity, and if you've got blockchain, then it cuts out those unnecessary logistics, which really add unnecessary expenses in the organization. And lastly, you talked about this whole thing about peer-to-peer transaction or doctor confidentiality, where there's no middleman in terms of administering the patient information. So the patient has got, confidence in the doctor that they are the only person who know their information. So that's quite important, and I think it's a very big thing in the medical space. And throughout the discussion, we talked about the possible incorporation of this blockchain within the academic spaces. Whether it's research, whether it's undergraduate studies, as well as protecting, IP, I would say, in terms of, experimental work and, ascertaining qualifications and so on. So I think that would be quite an important aspect, with regards to academic space. And we talked about, many other spaces where this could be possibly used. And I think a lot of us have learned, a lot about, blockchain and cryptocurrencies today. And I believe there's still a lot that we need to learn, from this platform, as I think it's not an easy one for everyone. And I think what I appreciate as well is the fact that, it has the possibility of, people from the low-income communities being able to access this via alternative platforms, which don't really need extremely smartphones, to access this platform. So I think that is an important aspect as well to today's discussion, and looking at the future possibilities of this blockchain platform. So with that said, thank you very much, Yaliwe, for that informative session. And Dr. Lamont, thank you very much for steering that conversation, throughout the 56 minutes that we went through the conversation today. So I'll hand over to you, Dr. Lamont, for closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Libeko. Yaliwe, thank you for those nuggets of wisdom. I think today everyone has definitely learned something, and they will definitely come back to this conversation in terms of how to start using cryptocurrency. So I think it is an excellent one. It's important for people to know about the technologies that are currently available. So thank you so much in terms of your time for having this discussion with us, and thank you to Dr. Libeko as well for being the facilitator. So I would just then like to close with my quote for the day. It's from Martin Luther King. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of convenience and comfort, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. Have a wonderful evening further. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.